It should pop back up in a moment. I will hold until I get confirmation that it's actually going through there, sending data there. Hi, there we go. We're back on YouTube. Says we're streaming. Hopefully that reconnection does that. I apologize. Twitch is fine. Twitch is working great. Shitter is apparently even looking good. Facebook looks good. And Twitch is all right. So I restarted the YouTube stream. So hit the like again if it asks you to, if it doesn't look like it registered. So hi there. All right. And hopefully it will fix some of it. Yeah. Okay. Wish me luck.
Security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former
Yeah, he's very unfit. He's a fucking... He looks like Pat Robertson fucked a circus peanut. He looks terrible.
Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump will give you...
Right. She makes... By the way, this is a great point. Because she rotates back over... into this point, and it's very wise. She realizes they're getting near, I think, the first break. They've gone well past the break point. So she starts making the point, we should be talking about policy. The fact that we're talking about this gibberish bullshit about people eating dogs is the problem itself. Yet another reason not to vote for this dipshit, because nobody needs to talk about this stuff. Oh, thanks for putting that in there, by the way, Andrea. By the way, the House Parks Megaworldwide is now the House Parks podcast Megaworldwide, available on all your streaming and podcasting services places.
Give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person.
Yeah, I agree. Look at that, broken clock moment.
Fired most of those people.
No, he did not. They resigned, you dumb fuck.
Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the...
Right. Well, they couldn't fire the people that were terrible involved in it because they were appointed by you and their term ran out.
Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed, and I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations any...
Hey, asshole, we're not in Afghanistan anymore. We're out. After 20 fucking years, we're out. It was never going to be pretty. And Biden had the guts to do it. Shut the fuck up.
Buddy has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy, look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists, they have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you.
What? So his reason is that we had a spike of inflation caused by supply shock. It got brought down back to normal. Things are steadying out. Everybody's been talking about kind of the miracle of the American economy. It's better than everybody else's in the world, even in spite of the struggles that we've been through, and it's improving all the time. So the very people that brought in to heal this thing have actually managed to do it. We've entered the soft landing phase. Even Bloomberg and all these fucking Market Watch and all these papers are like, how the fuck did they even pull this off? And yet this asshole's like, they didn't fire anybody. There's no reason to, dum-dum.
But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far.
Okay, I think, is this the one where this asshole sets her up for the 81 million people fired this dickhead?
In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
Yeah, but that's because mail-in voting was allowed for everybody because it was a fucking pandemic. So you can't say mail-in voting is, is untrustworthy and then claim that you can count those votes, right?
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does
10.3, by the way, is the real estimate. Lower than it was in like 2019, lower than it was in 2015.
this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah. It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down?
No, it isn't.
You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the
Where do they drop them off in her garage? How does this work?
greatest mistake.
They gave them to her, and she, I don't know, makes them shave their buttocks and their abdomens and stuff, and walk around in little short shorts, gold short shorts, something gay, and with her and her friends and her liberal Marxists, and then they put on like a fashion show, and then she releases them into communities
In history for them to allow, and I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything.
Okay, by the way, destroying the fabric of our country is his way of getting around the whole blood of our country and the great replacement shit. That's his way of sneaking that in. The problem is it's so ham-handed and lame, and it doesn't sound quite as exciting even to his followers who are super racist, that they're like, okay, that was my dog. All right, I heard the dog whistle. It just still comes across as kind of stupid.
Done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in.
Which I believe is like 200 count linen. It's cheap. It's the kind of sheets you would find at a Ramada. We're a country in decline.
And all over the world, crime is down. All over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof.
Yeah, no, it isn't.
Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says
He does that whole... Because he knows he just lied. He knows he just made up a bunch of shit and it was a gish gallop, and now he's like, fuck. He's just like, it's almost like he steadies himself for the fact check. Like, fuck, here comes the handle of the rake. I know I stepped on it.
overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They did.
Also, that's just nonsense. Nationwide is nationwide. You can't take the percentage in a city offset from the rest of the state and say that if it went up, by 30% in areas where there's a lot of people and in other areas there were no people, so crime basically averaged out or whatever, and go, in the state of Illinois, the whole state crime went up 30% everywhere across the whole state because it went up 30% in one neighborhood of Chicago comparatively. That means the entire state has an equal populace and it's all like, that's the argument he's making. It's so stupid.
Didn't include the cities with the worst crime.
Yes, they did. They otherwise it doesn't help. They're allocating funds, dum-dum. They're not doing it for politics. They're doing it for budget allocation. They actually have an impetus to over-report crime. Do you understand? They're on a budgetary level, the FBI wants to play up any, in theory, if the deep state exists, the whole fucking reason they would bring up crime and the rise in it would go, we need more funds to deal with these crimes and these criminals. If it goes down, they don't need those funds anymore. If there's a willingness to lie or overplay, they would talk up the crime statistics, not down. Oi.
It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear.
He's like, November. Oh, that is true. Yeah.
Where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this.
Oh, yeah. By the way, just for the record, the President of the United States can't defund local police or even state police. Those are paid for by state budgets and city budgets. Often a lot of overlap in those budgets, depending on population size and all that kind of stuff. There's support money in the federal government for them, but the ones who want to cut that all the time are conservatives. Just saying, Rand Paul wants to cut all those funds. The only law enforcement force the president has any control over is the FBI. And the only way they can cut the budget of the FBI is to ask for less money and get that cut from Congress. So, like, basically ask Marjorie Taylor Greene, say, in our budget, we're cutting FBI's budget in half. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene presents a budget like that. They put it through committee, it passes, and then it has to pass through the Senate, and then they sign it into law. That's the only way they fucking do it. It's the federal, that's federal law enforcement, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It wouldn't matter if the president wants to defund the fucking police. They don't have the power. Governors can do it. Mayors, arguably. Yeah.
This race, it is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric. And
by the way, her call them old and tired. Who controls CIA budget? The Congress. Congress does too. Same thing with the FBI, but the president presents a budget and they can either enact it or work in those frameworks. President will always put forward a framework for what kind of budget they're working with. And I'm pretty sure the FBI's budget is under the DOJ budget and the CIA budget's under the DOD. So the DOD budget allocates for what they need entirely, all those kind of things. And by the way, we do have some maggots in here, especially since I restarted, and I want to thank them. I saw a couple of them in. Thanks, maggots, for showing up. The trolls especially, because you guys deliver us out into the algorithm in a way we could not on our own. I'm just letting you know. I think it's fantastic. If it wasn't for you, we would not be able to reach into the little line that says, you also watched this. Right? You put me in that category on your account when other people see it. So if they watch what you watch, it will recommend my show to them. And it's a great way for other maggots to see my show and be upset by it. So, and it also just spreads me through the algorithm. So hit that like and share. And if you don't like the show, please give me a thumbs down and please write something in the chat. And this works on all the sites, by the way. Write something in the chat. Or later on, if you're, a loner and you need some time by yourself to compose your thoughts, write it in the, after we finished in the chat below. And then, all you got to do is I know this is hard. Don't use any racial epithets or anti-gay slurs or anti-woman slurs. Use your big kid words and express your hate creatively. I'm trying to make you the best bigot you can be. Okay? I believe in you. I know you can do it. So do that, write in use your best language so that it can stay. I don't want to have to take them down because you use a gross word and fuck you, right? I don't want to have to broom that out, right? Or the bot will kick you out, because some of it's automatic, right? I don't want that to happen. I want you to stand there. I want all your ridiculousness to stay in the chat because, again, you tell the algorithm, not only does this person watch him, He's engaging. Excellent.
Address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President.
Yeah, so same old tired, old and tired, old and tired. So she got that in that one answer. She got it in like 3 times. Oy. And like you, and the weird part is, instead of being kind of irritated by it, because he does get madder, it seems like he's shrinking. He's just kind of melting into it.
President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal.
No, he won't.
And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ from Atlanta and far.
Well, again, the state ones weren't, but they have to coordinate because you have Secret Service protection. So if they're going to serve a search warrant on your property, or they're going to have to serve you with a subpoena, or bring you in for a deposition, they gotta coordinate with the White House, because you've got Secret Service, or you're not a regular person. And of course, there's going to be coordination. You dumb son of a bitch. They didn't make you keep those classified documents, asshole. They didn't make January 6th happen. They didn't weaponize any of that stuff. Half this shit has nothing to do with your time in the White House. This asshole thinks that the E. Jean Carroll case, which was based on a survivor law because of Me Too, right, finally making its way through, giving people one last attempt to, because of statute of limitations, to bring civil charges against people who'd sexually assaulted them, finally caught up with you. That's what's happening, dickhead.
Bonnie Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York, every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what?
No, he wasn't.
What happened in my documents case?
Your appointed judge said the charges couldn't be brought because they were brought by a special counsel, which has been adjudicated. The existence of special counsel has been adjudicated again and again and again, and always stands up in an attempt to get herself off the case. So she dismissed it because of who brought it. It's going to come back. It doesn't matter. The DOJ has the right to appoint special counsels for this stuff. That's it. It didn't eliminate the fucking crime, you weirdo.
They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out.
Also, no, it wasn't. She's attempting to recuse herself in the only way she knows how.
It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you.
Yeah, they're not fake cases. Not at all.
A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice.
He's like, no, I said I would terminate parts of the Constitution, or you might have to terminate parts of the Constitution. It's not the same. I mean, I would, but it's not the same thing. Like split hairs.
Against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President.
Well, you never get between, I mean, you might stop him from sitting on the couch. It's 'cause, You might want to put down a napkin.
Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me.
And this is, by the way, this is, I think this is the only element of this where the only time where he does his kind of like, I'm not the puppet, you're the puppet. Like he tries to revive that shit.
She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of...
You got grazed by a piece of glass. You didn't take a bullet to the head, you fucking weirdo. Corey Comparator died. Stop fucking patting yourself on the back. Patton.
The things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation
we do have a lot
that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Yeah, it did. I mean, your campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, went to jail. You had to pardon him. 8 other people went to jail around it. Of course it went someplace. The only thing that stopped it was Bill Barr wouldn't let Mueller look at his finances, which eliminated the motive part, so they couldn't go any further. You can't establish a case unless you have, means, motive, and opportunity. If you can't prove motive because you're not allowed to look at motive, of course, it makes the case fall apart. That was the point.
Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed.
Also, by the way, real quick, to fact check what she's saying, the mandatory buyback was for assault weapons, not just for guns. Not like we're going to have a mandatory buyback on all guns. It's an important distinction because, again, when the right wing talks about guns, they think Democrats want to seize everybody's fucking guns, right? Everybody, but we're taking everybody's guns, right? That's the idea. No, just automatic weapons. That's what that conversation was about. Right? And still is, by the way. If there's an assault weapons ban, not only are they going to ban them, but they're not just going to come and knock on your door. They're going to pay you because you have them.
Then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. Mm-hmm. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of it.
Also, he shakes his head on this. This is not even a question. We are producing more oil than we ever have. As the United States is producing more oil than it ever did during Donald Trump and at any time in history. It's like, it's not even close. It's like 13 million barrels or some shit, 13.4, right? And it keeps going up. And there's still 9,000 unused leases available for oil without ANWR, without even the offshore North Carolina and South Carolina and Florida and California. Just land leases everywhere, 9,000 of them. Now, when he says we're going to drill, baby, drill, and we're going to make them drill, and we're going to come up with it, my question is, what are you going to do to make them do it? How do you make oil companies produce more so the price of what they're selling goes down? How do you do it? I mean, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can seize the companies like Venezuela and make them state-owned oil. Sounds kind of communist to me, but that's one of the ways you do it. I'm not for it, but that's definitely one of the solutions. The other one is you subsidize them. You pay the oil companies to overproduce, so the taxpayer pays their lost profits. That's how you do it. It's the only two ways. You can't put a gun to their head.
An approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved
crazy
and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work, to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built.
No, and again, I'm fairly certain that the tiny fraction he's talking about is 1/4. He got $100 million seed money from his dad, but he still owned stakes in all the property because he was part of the business. He took his dad's company, which was worth about $1.2 billion, and ground it into the fucking dirt. His dad gave him $100 million seed money, and he borrowed against his fucking family members. He took, by the way, I want to say it was like $35 million from the trust that his father left him and his sister and his brother, right, in the 90s. And borrowed, basically took it because he never repaid it, borrowed out of the family trust to just keep the lights on in the Trump organization because they were so broke, because they were so over leveraged. And then it was not until he discovered the power of Deutsche Bank and these unsecured loans, which Deutsche Bank magically just had this money, was handing out specifically to him and other fucking criminals around the world because they weren't worried about ever getting paid back properly, and they didn't do their due diligence because it was Russian money. It was Vladimir Putin's money in the bank. That's why they ended up being fined by the U.S. Justice Department, by the EU, dozens of times for money laundering. That's where it came from, because if you got a loan from a specific branch, one of their big like special rich guy loans, the reason you got that is because, and why they didn't worry about it, was because it wasn't their money. They loaned it out because the person who gave them the money said, "Okay, I'll give you this money. You loan it to that person, and you keep the percentage." And what he's going to do is give me a stake in whatever he makes.
Built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So,
yes, everyone would be surprised if you turned it into many, many billions of dollars. He hasn't. He's lost $4 billion in worth on Truth sinkhole just in the last few months, and set up a deal where he can't even sell his stock, I think, for another like 112 days, by which time it will be fucking worthless. And if he does sell it, it will make everybody else's stock, if there's anybody still holding any, worth even less, because it'll just crater it. Like he gives a shit, but whatever.
we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and
Very wrongly, very horribly, she gave all that stuff up.
everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
Don't lie.
She went out.
And by the way, she digs him. This is him trying to take her line. And he was waiting for it. He was like, going to use that and whatever. And she goes, like, right when he was taking credit for sniping her line, because that's what he thought he was going to, sound familiar? And you're like, yeah, it sounds like, you sound like an asshole if you're a man saying it, you fucking wuss. But then she's like, don't lie. Right as she says, don't lie right at that moment. Hold on.
Does that sound familiar?
Don't lie.
She went out.
See that? Don't lie.
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison.
Yeah, that's my favorite. That was like, I mean, there used to be a bit that that Howie Mandel used to do. I don't know if you remember. He would walk, at one point during his show, he would go, not ripe yet, you know, whatever. It was just this random, like, non sequitur mime bit that he would do. And it was just so fucking outside of the realm of what was going on. Just, God. And this one, like, he wants to give transgender surgery to immigrants in prison. It's just, so good. So that, I guess, everybody in the world just will come to the United States to get transed.
This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important.
Also, real quick, he knows he needs Pennsylvania, so he's got to sell this, and that's the only thing he's got, right? So he desperately needs. This is the one sales point he thinks he can make some. It's like fracking super important. You'll lose all these fracking jobs or some shit. Fracking and natural gas are the bridge fuel that liberals and environmentalists prefer over oil. If Pennsylvania had oil fields, the idea is you would shift from oil to or coal to natural gas on your way to total renewables. It's a transitory fuel is the idea, right? So one of the reasons why there was a big talk about fracking at one point was because there were a lot of earthquakes associated with it in Pennsylvania and in Texas. And then I think there were some in Montana too, but nobody lives out there, so they didn't feel them, or they thought it was cute, right? So it's weird that he fixates on this, right? Because there was this talk about no new leases in areas where on federal land where there were some earthquakes because of the fracking. That's what it is. It's just so that, and again, it's one of these things where it's like too complicated for him to even process.
In my opinion.
By the way, hit the like and share the show right now in case when I pop back on YouTube, we lost some folks because of the failure of the whatever.
So
thank you.
I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before.
Which is just silly. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like nobody's ever done before. How? What'd you do? What'd you do? Anwar? You got Anwar? Nobody drilled in Anwar. Anwar died before it even got off the ground. Keystone XL pipeline was Canadian fucking shale oil or whatever. Like it wasn't even U.S. oil. It was bringing Canadian oil to market to the fucking Great Lakes so it could go onto boats. It's not even our oil, dum-dum.
When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately...
The prices were going up the roof. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, there are very few colloquialisms that are this hard to fuck up. They're going up the roof. What was that again? I can't even say it wrong if I try. What the fuck?
Getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof.
The prices were going up the roof. Okay, the entire world was shut down. Oil production was at a standstill. There weren't people working at the processing plants because of COVID all over the world. There was a glut of oil for a while, and because the oil was just sitting there. And then as soon as the earth started up again and everybody started going back to work, the demand for oil went through the roof, and everybody wanted to go to the front of the line, including the United States. So everybody paid whatever the price they were asking for a good first year because you wanted dibs on that oil so your economy could get started. So they kind of had you up against the wall so they could charge for it until we got back up to the level of production, which is why next year, kids, there's going to be an oil glut. One of the reasons why he and the Republicans want to be in power so much is because they want to take credit for the oil glut that's happening next year, where oil prices are going to fucking crater. Just letting you know.
They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times.
Hang on, what? Wait.
Getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means. Does anybody know what the fuck that was? Going up the roof was bad enough. I don't know what the fuck that was.
The roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were.
They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I feel for you, Madam Vice President. I don't know what else you do in that situation, but look over and go, fuck are you talking about? What is that? What the fuck was that? What does that mean? It's not an answer. If you're going to shit on Joe Biden for some of the answers he gave, it's you're being unfair. You're being biased. I
would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago.
I'm sorry. Are we still talking? Are we talking about fentanyl now, or just Adderall and Sudafed crushed to make like junk meth? High on what? Pervitin?
They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline.
In that order?
So they said, let's go back.
That would be coming down, by the way, quadrupling and then doubling.
Back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel.
Also, why? Why would they wait? If the whole point is to destroy the country and you're not guaranteed a second shot, why wouldn't you just go ahead and do it?
We'll be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they...
Oh, by the way, this solar story is so weird that it takes up 400 acres to make a solar farm in the middle of the desert, and that's bad for the environment because you lose a patch of desert or something. Listen to this.
Need a whole desert to get some energy to come out of it. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a lot of you.
Okay, first of all, desert soil is an oxymoron. I would just like to say for the record, 400, 500 acres is not a lot of land. In the desert especially.
Not good things for the environment, as she understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days.
And by the way, as much as Harris is like, I think, really holding it together and dealing with Trump, she's had it. It's super clear that she's like, this motherfucker. Like, it's you can tell in her answers, ever since the answer on abortion, but like at each one of these moments, she's like, if he talks about the weave, I'm gonna snatch his fucking. Better shut the fuck up. Like, you could tell she's just like, If you do not, like you could tell.
And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy. And
do we all know that, though? Do we? Do we really all know that? Because I got to feel it. There's 4 of you on that stage. 3 of you I feel pretty good about. But there's one person up there, I'm not sure, prioritizes that. I'm just saying.
The role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West...
Oh, by the way, this is where he goes, you left out peacefully and patriotically. He said peacefully and patriotically early in the speech. After he said peacefully and patriotically, you know what he said? He said, you got to fight or you're not going to have a country left. And we got to let them know, right? We got when you're there, you got to let them know. And you got to fight or you're not going to have a country left. So basically the whole like peacefully and patriotically was the equivalent of saying don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes.
Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just...
No, I regret that Ashley Babbitt wasn't wearing a flak jacket like the instructions said.
Said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said.
Yeah, that's the walking down there part. Once you get there, how do you... let me explain this, fuckwad. How do you... work out this with me. How do you peacefully and patriotically pull out some fucking bear spray? How do you peacefully and patriotically take a fucking flag and beat a cop with it? How do you peacefully and patriotically build a gallows that you had gotten the wood and the screws and the rope and the bolts and the fucking plans and charged up the batteries the night before and managed to bring those supplies? Did they, hey asshole, did they peacefully and patriotically shit in the rotunda? Did they peacefully and patriotically build the gallows? Did they peacefully and patriotically yell, hang Mike Pence? Don't try to pretend, use fucking mob language and pretend we all don't know what the rest of the shit you said. If you follow up, I want you to walk down there, and I'm going to go with you peacefully and patriotically. But if Mike Pence doesn't have the strength to do what's right, you're going to have to fight, or you're not going to have a country left. You don't get to fucking excise everything you said after that, you dumb motherfucker. Like that statement's a ripcord.
That during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer.
Also, no. Ashley Babbitt, was carrying a backpack with a knife in it, was screaming for the murder of Pelosi and Pence. There was a guy with her, next to her, who was smashing the window of the barricaded doors that were being guarded by an armed guard that they could see. There's a guard there. He's got a gun. He's pointing it. And if you go through, he's under orders to protect the people on the other side because they were still clearing people out of there. And this guy smashed the glass, and he was about, this other man, you can look at it. This other man was about to go through that window. We wouldn't have even been talking about fucking Ashley Babbitt. We would have been talking about whoever the fuck that guy was. And you know what she did? She punched him in the fucking face because she wanted to be the first person through. If you want to go watch it, go ahead. I'm not going to re-air it because finding the footage without her just fucking dying shot in the chest, it's just sad and pathetic. She punched that dude in the fucking face so she could be first through the door. She got shot because she was first through the door. Anybody who would have been through the door first would have gotten shot. If she'd have let that guy go and just dovetailed behind him, she'd have lived. He'd be dead. I got news for you. Because of who she was, I bet you that if that guy went through and he got shot, she would have started going through after it thinking, well, fuck this. I'm going through and they can't kill us all because she was that kind of person. Because she saw the guy there. She saw the guard. She saw the gun. She knew it was being guarded by an armed guard. She knew she was trespassing. She knew she was engaged in violence. Right? It's Trump's fault. Trump got her killed. He wound her up. She was spun, and she got killed. And she had a knife on her. Try going into the Capitol today with a backpack with a knife in it. Today. Any day. Go pay a visit to Matt Gaetz. Do him no harm. It's not the point I'm making. Go say, I'm here to see Matt Gaetz. And put a knife in your bag and try to go through security, dum-dum. I mean, I'm being facetious. I don't genuinely recommend this. What do you think will happen? Wait, you think they'll go, oh, it's okay. They're here to see Matt Gaetz. It's fine. Let him in with a knife in their fucking bag.
that should have never, ever shot her. It's a
She should have never been in the fucking building, dummy.
disgrace. But
It's not a disgrace. It's his job.
we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar.
She was not the border czar. She was in charge of the border itself is a matter of law enforcement. It's the tide of people you have to deal with. The number of people who are coming up from South America and other countries that she was put in charge of going to those countries and dealing with the people before they even leave. Also, you're watching House Sparks Mega Worldwide, the greatest live stream ever. Thank you very much. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Patreon.com/HouseSparks.
She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, "Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet." That's because she knows what a bad job
Yeah, she didn't say that.
they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When?
Well, they do get prosecuted. That's the point. And as a matter of fact, the border bill had a bunch of funds in it to adjudicate those cases so that people can be extracted or kicked out of the country if they don't deserve to be here, or if they have legit asylum claims can be heard.
These people from countries all over the world, not just South America,
Yeah, black people is what he means. He means people from Congo who are black because they're scarier than brown people, because apparently in Texas and Florida and other states that he should be winning, he realizes that a lot of his followers aren't scared of brown people the way they should be.
coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all
over the world, everybody's got the word. All over the... All right, sorry. Sometimes ELO just happens.
over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted?
Yeah, poor hashtag rip Minneapolis. I was just there. It looked fine, but I must have been in the wrong downtown.
Or in Seattle, they went.
Oh, Seattle, yeah, Seattle. I was just in Seattle. It's terrible. Yeah, it was. I could honestly, I couldn't tell what bothered me more: the huge number of tourists that were in line to go in the first Starbucks, which is down in the market area. It was either that or all the smoke. You know what I mean? From the burning buildings. I couldn't tell you which.
Went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are
Yeah, it's like a block and a half. It was a park.
those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just...
Well, they were. They were. Also, they didn't affect our democracy. Right? They didn't interfere with the peaceful change of power. They didn't stop the counting of the Electoral College Act. Burning down a Target, while that's bad, and I don't recommend it, in no way affects whether or not the voter gets to say whether or not who their mayoral candidate is.
You might ask
Yes. Also, yes, he was president at the time. This was while Trump was president.
that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very...
Yeah, by the way, not just of Jan 6. He was the president during the burning of Minneapolis and Seattle and all that shit, too. Let's be abundantly clear. He was president during all of that shit. Like, go beyond fucking COVID. Like, a good portion of... You could fucking spin a wheel of reasons why 2020 was ass. And he was president during that year. I don't know why he keeps... Were you better off when Minneapolis was being burned to ground, COVID was running rampant, and I was selling the largest order of pork, corn, beef, and soybeans to the Chinese? What the fuck?
Very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that?
Okay, I appreciate where he's going with this question. But let me tell you something. Donald Trump is the kind of guy who's sitting in front of Christians, says he has nothing to ask God for forgiveness about. Christians. Not Buddhists, not some sort of like Branch Davidian, psycho cult, Jonestown nonsense. Christians. The essence of Christianity is repentance. The recognition that everybody's a sinner. And here's the funny thing. You can answer that question. I don't want to give the guy any fucking help, but as a Christian, you can answer that question without being specific. Is there any sins that, do you ever ask God for forgiveness? Of course I do. Often. Because we all fall short. Anytime I fall short, and I have the sort of mental awareness of when I'm falling short and I'm confronted with my own moral shortcomings. In those moments, in a prayerful heart, I ask God for forgiveness. Right? That's not hard. Do you understand? See, I just said that. Yeah, and it's not difficult at all. It's also, even if you're not a person of faith or a religious person, a reasonable thought. Even atheists, I think, could understand when someone of faith says, look, we all fall short of our own ethics and our own morals. And in those moments, I ask forgiveness and I try to make myself better and sort of tune myself to the note of the gods or to my own God so that I behave better. Because as dickish even as some atheists can be, and they can, I think they can get that, right? And they're okay with that. They don't have to share that belief with you, right? But they can see that you are trying to at least exemplify the height of the religion you allege to believe. It's not complicated at all, okay? And again, there is nothing wrong with us having an atheistic president. Although you have an issue with oaths in some cases. I understand where people fall back on that, because if you don't think there's anything after this life, then what's to stop you from being a hedonist? That's always the concern with it. This is another conversation for another time. Point is, though, this asshole is pretending to be a Christian to everyone he talks to. So if you set the standard that that's what kind of person you are, that that's your belief system, and that's your and you're going, this is the belief system that represents who I am, then you have a responsibility to live up to it, explain it, and defend it. Right? What's wrong with the ethical hedonism? I don't know. It sounds, I think that would be a great political party. Yeah, you're right. He's a fake Christian, Jimmy. He's a phony. This is bullshit.
Day. Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed.
They didn't, by the way, they asked me to make a speech. What a fucking pussy. You asshole. This was your event, you dumb motherfucker. Nobody asked you. This was a campaign event. They asked you to give a speech. It was your event. Nobody asked you. You asked other people to come and from Giuliani to Eastman to your own fucking kid to come out and defend your bullshit belief that you hadn't lost and all this stuff. They didn't ask you to make a speech. It was your event. You planned it. You organized it. You said, be there. It'll be wild.
Up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and
this is bullshit, too.
The mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said,
again, yeah, it was. It was done by you.
I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that.
No, she doesn't. Also, can I just say real quick, why the fuck would they need 10,000 troops for a maggot gathering that close to the Capitol? Why? Why would you even have to suggest that? Secondly, if you know that Donald Trump had been, in his final weeks in office, had been filling the DOD and the intelligence community and parts of the DOJ with his own weird loyalists, like, people were resigning because of the shit he tried to pull, and then he was putting people in position that would basically do anything and that had no allegiance to the country whatsoever. Would you let that motherfucker surround you with 10,000 troops, randomly fucking picked? Bunch of fucking Texas National Guard and Montana National Guard and fucking, right? All these like red state psychopaths, Michigan militia fucks coming up who all pass it like, here's your 10,000 troops. They're all Proud Boys. They're all on the DL. They've all sworn a weird Oath Keeper oath to me. Are you nuts?
That tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security.
All right. Yeah, you're like, yes, you were. By the way, his offer of 10,000 quote unquote troops around that area meant they didn't have any defensive weapons. They didn't have any guns. They didn't have any shields. They wouldn't have any riot gear. They'd just be in uniform. So that, I guess in theory, the Proud Boys could hand them shit when they attacked the Capitol. We brought the guns. Don't worry about it.
Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville.
Oh, by the way, I fucking love this. So this is, Biden brings this up against him, and this drives Trump crazy. And we even saw earlier when I did a clip, I did Glenn Beck and Stu talking about how the Charlottesville lie, they're going to use that, good people on both sides, and it's such a terrible lie and whatever. He absolutely said it. Get fucked. And you don't get to just disavow okay, I disavow the white supremacists, but the anti-Semites, that's a different thing.
Where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the...
But they push back on this all the time, and it's the weakest pushback that they have. He absolutely said that, and he absolutely meant it. And what he seemed to be talking about when he was trying to dig himself out after he caught himself saying it was that, there's some Daughters of the American Revolution people who just want their Robert Lee statue to be up, and they're very offended by this idea. Like they were standing around fanning themselves going, this is a terrible thing for everything that the South has been vilified. This was the war of northern aggression. This was about economics, not about slavery. Like that shit. That there were people down there supposedly who felt that way about the statue. Horseshit.
The Proud Boys, a militia. The former president said, stand back and stand by.
Also, he shakes his head at that. He said it during a debate.
Everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about.
He sits in this kind of, he wants to look tough, so he does this thing, and then sometimes he realizes he's hunching down, he does like this, and then he just sinks like this. It's like his neck vanishes. He does it a bunch of times.
Attacking the foundations of our democracy.
He's just over it.
Because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not.
Oh, there he goes. So butthole mouth. He's doing butthole mouth. That means he's about to snap and start yelling. So he does this whole. He does this all the time, and then like it's him trying to hold together, and he never can. And then that's when he starts. This is where he starts getting sweaty upper lip and really angry from this point on.
Go back. Let's chart a course for the future, and not go.
He also does that weird thing where he like goes, like he's a fucking fish in the. He's like the goldfish at the end of the epic Faith No More video, just laying on the ground.
Backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where Bloodbath was. Also,
no, it wasn't. Bloodbath was about, allegedly, he's getting his lies mixed up. Originally, his defense of the Bloodbath thing, which was about immigrants killing everyone. It wasn't about his supporters. At the initial one, anyways. He's used it a couple of times since. But at the initial one, Bloodbath was about immigrants are going to come through and basically just murder everybody. MS-13 is going to chop everybody to pieces. So the auto industry isn't going to be a thing. But his defense was, afterwards, people were like, oh, he's talking about it's going to be a bloodbath economically because of cars sold in the United States, right? And it's a common phrase, bloodbath. Like, shut the fuck up. Now he wants to make it about something else entirely, about oil and energy, which is nonsense. No, there was never a bloodbath about fucking oil from Mexico.
On Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was not perfect.
You realize what you'd said and you tried to cover it. You tried to tap dance out of it.
Debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be...
Again, I think he was starting to go towards the whole, why aren't they arresting people who burned down Minneapolis thing, but he realized he'd already said it, so he just went to... He's just like, whatever happens, just go back to the border. Like, part of his brain is just like, just scare them with Mexicans. Mexicans are coming across. Venezuelans, fucking Congo, brown and black people across the border. Right?
Be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now.
Yes, this is it's like a mini version of when John McCain suggested they suspend their campaign in 2008 and go down and work on legislation. This is such a weird... We should leave here right this moment and stop doing all this talking and go down and she can wake up Joe Biden, who is probably sleeping because it's nighttime. And I think it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon because I stay up all night screaming at the ceiling. And she should sign a piece of legislation, a bill, which comes from, maybe on the ride down from Pennsylvania to D.C., they could play the Schoolhouse Rock song for him.
I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills.
Well, then why would you sign a bill to close up the border if they don't need a bill? Then why would they sign a bill?
They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right. You'll say, come on.
By the way, he does realize they're doing this at night. He knows what time it is, right? So they're going to leave there at 10 o'clock and drive down to D.C., and it will take you till 4 o'clock in the morning? And what are they going to do? Listen to fucking Springsteen in the car ride and fight over the radio?
Come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has.
Also, what bill? What are you talking about? Congress passes bills. He means an executive order, but he can't think of executive order. He can't process the phrase. So he keeps saying bill like a tick, even though he just said they don't need a bill. Like he can't find the word. It's like his problem with saying oranges.
What he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
No, you can't. You have to have a reason for it. Also, what do you mean closed? Nobody comes through? No shipments, no boxes, no nothing, no traffic.
Those people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration.
Those people are killing many people, unlike... Look, for the record, I don't know what those people he's talking about are in particular. I suppose migrants who murder people is where he's figuring. But just because the Jan 6 people failed doesn't mean they weren't there to kill someone. They built a gallows. They brought guns. They brought knives. They brought zip ties. They were going to... Right? Just because they're a bunch of fuck-ups and they failed does not mean we're responsible. Right? Or they have to pick up. What happened? Oh, did I pause for a second? Did I freeze? Look at that. Hold on. Whoops. Hold on. Recycle. What are we doing? Come on now. Oops. Oh, we back? Think we're back? We're okay? You buffered for a second? I buffered? All right. I'm less buffering now? Am I less buffery? I have taken over the internet. I mean, that's the problem with having the greatest live stream in the history of all live streams is I just eat up all the broadband because, pretty friggin' broad. You know what I'm saying? Refresh your page, cycle back. Well, I'm here. All right. We're good. So where was I? There's something about Jan 6 didn't do anything wrong. It's because they're fuck-ups. And I was like, I personally think, and some of you know this, I believe the sentence for attempted murder should be the same as murder. Just because you're a fuck-up and you weren't successful trying to murder someone doesn't mean you're not a murderer. Right? If anything, it might even drive you to try again. Maybe if you murdered somebody, you're like, well, I killed the person I hated, but I'm never going to kill anybody again. So you can kind of turn me loose at some point because I'm not a threat to anybody else. But somebody who tried to kill somebody and failed probably has more of a reason to try and kill somebody else. Yeah? Anyways, just dumb.
Here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus. Truth in these times that we're living in.
Truth is very good. The stock sucks, but that's because I blame Taylor Swift.
Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly...
Ouch. Shiv number one.
Falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging...
Again, I said that. These were very shocking moments when he actually said them, and people, they got a lot of attention. So I got to say, I think he's lying here. I think he knows he said it, and he's pretending he doesn't remember. And then he says it was sarcasm.
That you lost in 2020.
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know that. It was said, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it.
There's no proof.
And they should have sent it back to the legislature.
No. And again, the fact that he's in a debate in 2024 talking about this shit.
Just for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten.
Yeah, why would you say something like that? Oh, because you mean the person who was selling you votes in Texas and Florida was saying, if we buy 1 million extra votes, you're covered.
The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have...
He says borders and elections, and he fucked up and said walls.
We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these...
Well, then maybe... What if they vote wrong? What if they vote for you? Oh, I see. So it's not you think the Democrats are trying to get illegals to vote. It's because you've been doing it and you know that you can't check after the fact on a ballot and see who voted for what because you can't ask anybody. So what you do is you get a bunch of people in certain states to vote for you illegally, And then when you do a recount, you go, these are illegal people who voted. And if you lose, you blame you make everybody assume that those votes were cast for your opponent, even though they were your votes, because you can't place the fraud with the actual vote. You can't tag them together. See how this works? Donald Trump tried to rig the election. He tried to get his own people to vote more than once. There were a myriad of people. If you don't believe me, just listen to his bullshit apocryphal story about the lady who wore her hat and was like taking her purse and getting all fancy dressed to go down and vote, and found out somebody else had voted on her, using her ballot, and she just left sad. She didn't call a cop. She didn't report the crime. She didn't call Rudy Giuliani's fucking hotline.
These people are trying to get them to vote, and that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it
and said
they said
no
we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have.
By the way, yes, they did. The judges looked at the recounts, and you have to have a reason beyond the recount to say there's okay. We did a recount and we lost the recount, but there was other fraud. What's your evidence? We have videos of people in a building. Okay, let me see it. There's no proof of a crime here. Yeah, there is. Why? We lost. That doesn't qualify. Fuck off. That's how they went. I watched all that shit.
Have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election?
Also, Rudy's, like, the campaign had standing for all kinds of shit. It was the group that didn't have standing was the group of like right-wing AGs headed by like Paxton out of Texas. That was the one that lost on standing. Texas can't tell Georgia how to conduct their elections.
Doesn't have standing. The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many.
Yeah, you won't. You're not going to have a special on this after this. Like this motherfucker. Listen to this asshole. In the middle of the final debate before an election, this asshole is arguing with the moderator about you guys need to do a special about the 2020 election, and I'll show you all my evidence. Remember, there was a point fucking 2 years ago. Remember, he announced on Monday, we're going to do this big, I'm going to display all the evidence. Do you guys remember that? He announced the whole thing, and then they called it off. They fucking called it off. He just didn't do it. He just blew it off. He was gonna do his own Four Seasons total landscaping display of the evidence. And then he just didn't. I was all fucking dudes. I was so excited. I was like, let's do this. I was gonna. You guys remember? I was gonna live stream the whole fucking thing. Yeah, Mike Pillow did fucking 4 of these goddamn things. He had 3 years in a row and then an extra one. I covered all of those. And so when Trump announced that he was going to do his own, I was like, let's have it. Come on. I'm ready. And then what happened? Nothing. Fucking chickened out. You wimped out, you fucking wuss.
Facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter.
Facts and statistics. Hey, asshole, statistics aren't proof in an election. You can't go, I was winning in the polls and I was winning early before they counted the mail-in votes. If they'd have just stopped counting before they started counting the mail-in votes during a pandemic, I would have won. Fuck you. No, here's how it works. You count every legal vote, every single time, all of them. If anybody is denied the right to vote, they should be able to file a case saying, I was denied my right to vote, and their vote should be counted as evidence in future elections. It should be added to the toll.
Matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old.
We don't have a problem.
News. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you.
That's the other thing. The nation is dead. Have you seen the shitty airports in this country? They're small. They have like one little gas pump and all this stuff. Oh, you mean the private airfields where you land that are like attached to golf courses because you're a fucking asshole and you haven't set foot in a commercial airport in years? You mean those? Yeah, they look like shit. Yeah, I know. They're regional airports. You land at regional airports, dummy. They don't have the infrastructure for they're all beige. I don't know why. Doesn't matter where they are in the country. They're all fucking beige. I've landed at tons of them.
Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that
also what? How do you prosecute donors? If somebody donated to the other side, what's the fucking charge? No, he didn't say stoners. He said donors. Right? What's the charge? So people are going to go to jail just for supporting the other side? In America? In America, Chuck? I'm fed up, man. I'm fed up with you.
Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that.
Boom. Ah, look at him. And he knows it was a good line. Look at him. He knows. He knows it's a good line. Watch that again. Watch. He's just kind of frozen. Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having...
Boom. Just fucking flattened. Oh, that was, I would argue, best line of the night, especially for him. There's a bunch of good stuff. She did great. But that's the one where she, you know, because they used that Drago footage earlier. I think it was on Glenn Beck's thing, whatever, from Rocky IV. This would be the part where where Drago got cut under the eye.
Having a very difficult time processing that.
Yes, he's a lunatic.
But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States.
Oh, and this is the other one. So she hits him really hard with this, he got fired by 81 million people. And then she follows it up with, world leaders think he's a fucking disgrace.
And world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace.
Yeah, all of this is true, and he knows it. You know, I've made this joke for a long time that, you know, Trump's like, foreign countries are laughing at us. I call them up, and as soon as I go, it's Donald Trump, they start laughing, and I'm like, stop laughing at America. And, you know.
And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I agree. I think the easier answer, if she really wanted to do it, was basically that he's losing his grip on reality, which was tenuous at best anyways, and it seems increasingly that he does not have the ability to process reality.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Victor Orban, one of the most respected men.
Oh my God, this motherfucker, Orban. By the way, Victor Orban, just so you know, maggots especially, lean in, kids. So Hungary has the strictest gun laws in the entire European Union, including England and France. Every 5 years, you have to get your gun serviced at a government center, like a car getting a smog check. Everybody's registered. Everybody knows which guns you have. There's rules about it. There's no fucking machine guns or fucking bump stocks or any of that shit. Hungary has the strongest fucking gun laws. So I don't want to hear any of this. He's a strong man and a strong fella and a strong guy. And when you're saying that when he's got those kind of gun laws, just fuck off. He's got nothing to be afraid of.
And they call him a strong man. He's a tough person.
No, he isn't. He doesn't have to be a tough person. He's got the strongest gun laws in the EU. Smart.
Prime Minister of Hungary.
No, he's not that smart. He's a rudimentary asshole. He's one step shy of Belarus as far as being a sock puppet of Vladimir Putin.
Said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid.
Why would they be afraid of you? You put off responding to COVID to get your fucking phase one of your stupid 3-phase deal that never happened.
Of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was
What's going on with North Korea?
Afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country,
It's the Keystone XL pipeline. It's not just we don't have a pipeline that has extra large shirts in it.
Ended that, but he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her.
All right, yeah, this is also funny. Again, it's not a violation of democracy for a party to pick their leader however they want. They can flip a fucking coin. It doesn't matter. It's up to the voters to decide whether that's the person they want, no matter how that person was chosen. So if the party puts somebody in there and then Democrats don't go for it, that's our ass. That's how it works. That's how democracy actually works. The process, like this asshole did a big end run around everybody that was running against him, especially for all the accusations of what was done against Bernie. Trump did everything like that and more against Harris and the others. So it's just goofy as shit. The idea that Biden doesn't like her, when he specifically was like, if I'm dropping out, she's the one. You guys don't get to swap out the whole fucking ticket. It's her. He was the one who picked her. He's the one who made sure that he gave her his endorsement to go forward because he knows what he's fucking doing.
But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get.
We're going to do it very well.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them.
By the way, you guys hanging in there? I know we've gone through a couple of bumps and ruffles as far as the live feed and that kind of stuff, and it is a late night stream. If you gotta ditch, turn off his mic, handy girl. My girlfriend was yelling the same thing, like turn his fucking mic off, fucking turn it. You're supposed to turn his mic off. Fuck him. But you know they didn't because that's they're gonna be deferential no matter what. But as long as you guys are still there, again, if you got to watch the rest of it later, I'm totally down. If you start falling asleep, I hope my dulcet tones lull you into a comfortable, warm, and happy. I don't have any popcorn down here. I should have some, but a warm and comfy space. But if not, and I'm keeping you awake with my loudness and all this shit, thanks for staying up with me.
Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying...
Yeah, gee, what a crazy thought. Hold on one second. I want to do something real quick, if I may. It's getting warm in here, so I'm putting my hair back because it's getting warm in here. It's making my neck hot. All right, here we go.
International humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead, nearly 100.
By the way, can I say for the record, the 40,000 number is from January. It's always been that number. And Hamas keeps saying it's always half civilian. Somehow, Israeli bombs always manage, even when they're only firing on evacuated areas, completely full. Like every image you see out of there right before it happens is a fucking sausage fest. It's all just men, and yet somehow it's like they ricochet off and hit women and kids, according to Hamas. And it's this static number. It's so odd.
Hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a
Who is a prick?
Deal in the making.
Oh, sorry.
President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so,
by the way, terrible story and important. I would like to remind everybody, also besides Trump looking like he's falling asleep, he doesn't know any of these details.
absolutely. I said then, I say now. Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate?
Now, that was a presidential answer to a very difficult question. Very serious. There's it's an important conversation, a lot of stuff in it, right? But a very presidential answer. Here's Trump's follow-up, okay? Let's just compare the two. Understanding the absolute difficulty of the Gordian knot that is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that has gone on for a long time, okay? And that was a very presidential, thoughtful, concerned answer. Now let's listen to what Trump says.
Negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza.
If I were president, it would have never started.
Right, that's the other one too. The proven negative. None of this would have ever happened if I was in there. Hey, asshole, it did. So let's assume it would have. Then what?
If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine.
Yeah, there was. Like, everybody knew it was a matter of when, not if.
And killed millions of people when you add it up. Far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of her.
Also, by the way, she met with him in person and gave a press conference after the meeting. She just didn't go to the right-wing blatherfest that the Congress set up for him. She's the vice president. She didn't have to go. He was addressing Congress. Co-equal branches, you know.
She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now.
Why wait 2 years? If she wins, why didn't she just pull the plug with she and her Jewish husband can just sit there and rub their hands together for maybe a week. And then in March, just cut off all funding and boom.
And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that.
No, he hasn't. He said that it was going to crash like 1929 when Biden won. It was going to all be terrible. Like all the things he's saying about her, he said in 2020 as well, but about Biden, and none of them happened.
That one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population.
Yeah, this is the other one too. She just hates everybody. So what's the argument that she's... Is it because you try to put it out there that she's Hindu? Is that where we're going? Does he think does he forgotten what Hindu is and he's trying to make it like she's some sort of exotic religious different? I think she's a Methodist, so.
Because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump.
No, it wasn't. The $6 billion we were going to get for the hostages was made during oil deals between them and South Korea that Donald Trump gave them a waiver for. Just saying. All that money was in a South Korean bank.
Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran...
No, they didn't.
And had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror, and they are
spheres of terror.
Spheres of terror. Horror.
Spheres of terror. Tara Dublin, what are you doing? Why do you have these spheres, you demon woman?
Horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had.
What are you talking? No, he didn't. You made it up. This is him kissing the ass of the interviewer. He does this a bunch.
Had no money for terror. They were broke.
Poor Tara. It's always rough.
Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President.
By the way, this is his attempt... because nothing's original with this motherfucker. Everything's a reboot. And you have to understand, this is the same... He thinks he's going to... This is the second coming of Carter and Reagan. That I'll deal with Iran. You guys keep up your shit. Make things difficult for who's in office right now. And then as soon as I'm in, you guys ease up and I'll give you what you want. But you got to really fuck things up while I'm not in office so I can promise... that, and then I'll look like a hero because you guys just shift your attacks elsewhere. Not gonna happen. But he thinks he can do what Reagan did in the Iran-Contra affair, and specifically dealing with Iran for hostages and arms and the like. He can do that with Russia and China and Iran and any number of people. Like, he thinks that's how it's gonna work.
President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is.
Look at this. She called him weak, and look at him.
It's well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known.
That's not true. I just want to drill, baby, drill. I just want to do the Sarah Palin thing. That's a mean lady.
That he said of...
Shouldn't have said that on that fucking show. And then Sean Hannity helped me walk it back, but I was mean to Sean like a dumbass.
Putin, that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why.
Okay, this is where the shoulder drop happens. This, I don't want to get too much into the being some sort of body language expert or some shit, which I am not. But there's this point where he does this, and he did it when Hillary would get him. It seems to only happen really when women fuck with him. I don't remember like with Biden, it was a lot of toddler shit, like dad, like his shoulders side to side like this. But this whole like, mom, like there's this. Do you notice that? And it's super peculiar. This one, and I wonder if they cut to the other angle because he does it a couple of times.
So many military leaders who you have worked with.
There he is. He's got this fucking, like, it's like he's got a hump. He's just like leaning forward on that shoulder. It's like he's got his ear going to it. It's super odd.
Told me you are a disgrace.
Then he finally catches himself and he straightens himself.
That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down.
Yes, it is true. Their crime rates are way down. Other countries have the skinniest criminals in the world.
Different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are like, I don't know if you've seen their criminals lately. They're shadows of their former selves.
Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have
What has he gotten away with? 600,000 dead?
Happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline?
Oh, they didn't. They actually said they took off the part where, okay, so Trump put on some sort of like international hold on the on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which legally wouldn't hold up. So what Biden did was rescind that and then in a form of sanction, not allow any American or company or American insurance company or a business, an insurance business that does business in America to insure the Nord Stream pipeline. That way we could do damage to it effectively financially, because none of our companies or any companies related to the United States, if something happened to it, would be responsible for paying for its repair or its upkeep, right? And so that was that. We just kind of, one's legal, one isn't. His thing wasn't legal. It wasn't gonna hold up, and he kind of knew it. So there's a bunch of things there are a bunch of attacks he did on Putin that wouldn't hold up in a court of law, and he knew they would eventually get rescinded. So it was kind of like a way to look tough without actually doing anything.
Find anywhere in the world, going to Germany and all over Europe, because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia.
I'm alone.
Of covering course for capital C's are saying to mobile
presents a new for an area.
Jumping ahead, coming back after this thing.
for the debate simulcast.
Here again.
Into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine.
We're getting through it, kids. We've only got about 25 minutes left.
Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine?
I would do it because I never had to do it.
To win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers.
Also, again, no, it isn't. Like, the numbers are bad and they're pretty direct, but I don't know what the fuck he's talking about with the millions and millions business. Like, he thinks every building that's bombed out is still full of people. Like, nobody gets evacuated. It's super odd.
Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion.
As Wes, I don't think Boston Brian's going to come in tonight because I think he had family stuff to take care of and he wasn't able to jump in. If he's still up and he wants to, he can. But earlier he couldn't.
Less, because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of...
Oh, by the way, Trump was trying to undercut NATO and basically drive a wedge. He never expected NATO to actually pony up. He was kind of pissed that they did.
Billions of dollars when I said...
And also, they don't give us money. It's like the same thing with the tariffs. They don't pay us or pay into NATO. They have to commit a certain amount of their military budget, their GDP, to like NATO as far as exercises and material and that kind of shit. A lot of them were still scrambling from 2008, and they've gotten special dispensation about it and shit like that. It's just silly.
Either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't...
Former. And no, they don't.
Respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin. Hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that...
Also, yeah, they tried in the beginning to negotiate with them when the shit had started.
It's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president...
How? By forcing Ukraine to give up the territory that had already been taken and giving it to Russia. Then what do you think they're going to do? Stop?
Elect. And what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president...
Mr.
Yes, he's still the president. He's doing president shit. They're negotiating all the time.
President, that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up.
Also, again, he uses this thing. He said this before. He doesn't know he's alive. Do you get the feeling Trump has no idea whether he's alive or not? You think he's afraid that, like, what if I'm dead and I'm a ghost? Do you think he's, like, tortured by his own idiocy like that? Because I think so.
Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiated.
What do you mean done? What the fuck does done mean, dumb fuck? What does done mean? A ceasefire and a two-state solution, that's a pathway that people can understand with Israel and Gaza. The fuck does done mean, dummy?
The deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your...
Well, we could do it. Just get fucking Russia to take all their people out. It'd be done in a second. Here, Russia, get the fuck out. Get out. Go back to your borders that you agreed on in the 90s and leave everybody the fuck alone. Why isn't that the argument? The fuck out of here.
Your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as commander-in-chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over.
Look at him, and he's like, yeah, I know, shit. Yep, she got me.
Within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Okay, by the way, he's not hearing any of this shit. And what you'll see in his answer and his response to this, that he thinks she was supposed to be there to negotiate a peace or a settlement between Russia and Zelensky and stop the invasion. When in reality, the intel we had was that Russia was really going to invade. They didn't give a shit. They'd already made up their mind, and that there wasn't going to be a way to talk them out of it.
And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO...
Oh, this, by the way, this part she brings up about the Polish people that live in Pennsylvania is brilliant. Like, as a reminder, holy shit. Like, this is one of those ones that I was surprised they worked in. Really smart. Really smart.
NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
And by the way, boom, probably her best answer on anything all night. National security, war and peace, strategic, an awareness of the boundaries of Europe, the Americans that are tied to it. Because of ethnic background in a particular swing state, all just really good. Trump doesn't understand. You could tell he doesn't believe. He doesn't understand. He can't comprehend any of that.
We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women.
600.
But he would have been sitting in Moscow, quiet please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever...
Yeah, by the way, this is a Russia Today talking point that Russia uses. For those of you that are new to this, Russia uses mutual assured destruction as an umbrella under which they're allowed to attack anybody. And if you try to stop them, hey, we got nukes. You don't want to start a nuclear war. Let us kick the fuck out of this person. It's the rapist with the gun. Basically Russia is the BTK killer. Tie up the kids and the parents in different rooms, and if you try to do anything about this, I'll kill the kids in the other room, and and use that as leverage so that you can do anything you want to each of them, and then kill them all anyways. That's what Russia does. That's what mutual assured. That's what MAD means to them.
Thinks about that, and eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war.
No, they didn't.
War started. 3 days later, he went in and he started.
Yeah, no. Hey, dummy. They did not negotiate peace. She was there to warn an ally that an enemy was going to attack them, and because they didn't believe it. She went there with the delegation to show them the evidence. This is happening. They're not just putting soldiers up to the line and helicopters and shit. The medics are there too, and they are supplied. This is happening.
Started the war.
They were right.
Because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started.
What did they say? What was the wrong things? What are you talking about? Either they didn't call and try to negotiate, or they said the wrong things. What did they say that was wrong? And again, I'll tell you what Trump thinks is wrong. The Biden administration said you're going to be attacked by Russia, and they told Russia, if you do, there's going to be hell to pay. And Russia went, fuck you.
She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with.
No, they didn't.
Zelensky and Putin.
No, they didn't. You weirdo.
And she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice.
By the way, that list of historians of who the best and worst presidents are, Donald Trump lists as the worst by all of their measures. And it's been and ever since that happened, he has been clamoring about how Biden's the worst president ever and she's the worst vice president ever, because it scares the shit. He's got to have somebody below him on the list, and it's not working.
Vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President.
No, dummy. They didn't. There were, first of all, we don't negotiate between potentially warring parties in situations like that, especially when the party that's going to start the aggression isn't requesting meetings to talk about shit. Hey, we're about to attack. If you don't give us this, there was none of that. They were just amassing troops, and they were just going to go.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fella. And that is another one. When I went...
Fella's okay. I would have gone with doofus.
...to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms.
Yeah, felon. Is that what you think? Last life crisis? It's very smart. Or late life
as
crisis.
A leader who shows strength, understanding that the
Thank you, Ben.
alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to a.
By the way, thanks everybody for the super chats. I'm doing this and I'm staying focused on this, but I noticed a bunch of them came through, and I just want to thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I'm just focused on doing the show and listening and all that. So if I'm not getting to them and referencing them, I just want to say thank you. Appreciate it.
Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were.
Also, no, we weren't, asshole. We weren't paying all of NATO. We have the farthest to come. So we pay the most to bring our forces over for exercises with NATO. Everybody else is right fucking there. They don't have as far to travel. They don't have as far to bring their fucking gear.
Being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO.
No, we weren't.
I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first.
Thank you, you silly old fart.
Hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Hold on. That display today was heartbreaking. I don't know if you guys saw that they awarded the 13 soldiers posthumously awards, and they had their families there. And this was all concocted by House Republicans right before the election on the third year anniversary, as if 3 years is the point, not 4 or 5, 10, whatever it is. Simply just to draw attention to this before an election, and it's using the deaths of these soldiers for politics. It's fucking gross.
Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. Four presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did.
Goddamn right. And how, sister?
And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century.
Yeah. People just kind of slide right past that. Look at Trump. But
let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine.
Yeah, Doha was fucked.
Calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this.
By the way, before our people came out. Not like after we leave, we'll release those people. No, before.
And
who does that? By the way, excuse me, you know all that shit about like he shouldn't have taken out the military first, which he didn't. Donald Trump drew down the military to below the number we would need for the evacuation because he was trying to undermine it because he didn't want to leave. He wanted to stay and keep Bagram, and it was all just bullshit. So he brought down the number to 2,500, knowing that in the following, like in his next term, if he made it, he would raise it back up to 6,000 or 10,000. That was the plan, and then he lost, and Biden had to put in 6,000 troops to help with the evacuation. That said, Trump was never going to leave anyways. But the Doha agreement was meant to fail.
President at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president,
this fuckwad,
as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban...
By the way, I posted the Doha agreement earlier when this part came up during it on Twitter. But go look up the text of the Doha agreement. It's just 4 pages, and it's bullshit. And it was meant to fail. Pompeo negotiated it with Trump and Abdul, which the guy's name isn't Abdul, it's somebody else. He negotiated it with them specifically because they expected them to fail, and they did, but they continued on with it. And when Biden came in, they went, we're not going by this. This is the date, we're getting the fuck out. That part's in there. They're not going to kill any of our people as long as we don't pass this date. Fine, then we're gone.
And was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban.
He got involved with the Taliban. Yeah? Was it just a side piece kind of a situation, or was it like full on just fucking like knees and knobs?
Because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time.
What? Look at her face. She's like, fuck are you talking about?
But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is
No, he isn't.
still the head of the Taliban.
The head of the Taliban's name is not Abdul. There was a guy who was like third in charge that he got out of a Pakistani prison named Abdul. But it's not even the same people. It's just stupid.
And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for
basically, Abdul, what I'm saying is, just in case you're thick, you have a wife and children there. I'm going to kill them. That's why. Not you, obviously. I'm not showing you a picture of you from space saying, I can shoot you anytime I want. I'm sending you a picture of your home that is full of your wives and your children and your sister and whoever the fuck, everybody else who isn't an enemy combatant. I'm showing you a picture of that building because I'm going to kill innocent civilians related to you. That's why. I'm sorry. He was, sometimes it's hard and I get off track. He was saying something about being the most pro-life president ever. I mean, what are the chances of Abdul's wife or one of his daughters being pregnant? Probably slim to none.
For 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement.
Yeah, not my fault.
The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful.
We didn't leave behind $85 billion worth of brand new equipment. We just didn't. I get tired of talking about this one, but it's just stupid. That's the entire accumulated number of actual gear, the entire 20 years we were there. Most of it was shredded. We didn't leave anything worthwhile behind. It's just stupid.
For military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it.
They blew it.
Agreement.
Oh, and this is the part. Okay, they blew it. Okay, how'd they blow it? They left. They actually left. We were supposed to stay, keep Bagram. The Taliban, he's about to say, they didn't do this on the checklist. What he's talking about is the Taliban violated the Doha agreement, which meant we didn't have to leave, and they fucking left. That's what he's saying. Listen to this. Listen to this.
Behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it.
Okay, He's fucking around with pronouns here, so people think that like the Biden administration didn't do something. No, the Taliban didn't. The agreement said the Taliban has to do this, 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 and this, and they didn't do it. So what does that mean? We don't leave. We keep Bagram. We add more troops. That's what he's talking about. When he says we blew it, he means it was supposed to fail. It was set up to fail. The Doha agreement was supposed to fall apart. Some of the points on there were impossible to meet, and they didn't live up to them. But you know what? Today there was it was like a gathering of Mike Johnson and a bunch of other folks or whatever. And one of those asshole Republicans put out this report. Shit, hold on one second. This is going to drive me crazy. And I know it's late. I know you're weary. I know your plans don't include me. Okay, so House GOP Afghanistan withdrawal report. I think it was. Scathing report on Fox News. Text. Where House issue release report on Afghanistan. See if I can find the actual report. Our investigation. The report lays out. Here it is. Exclusive McCall to testify. Blah blah blah. Criticize U.S. Shit. Hold on. Give me link to the goddamn report. You pricks. Bottom line, McConnell said he'd hope the report's findings would deter the U.S. from moving forward and want to carry out as an ill-advised withdraw troops from Iraq. Right. Okay. These guys didn't want to leave at all. Hold on. Yeah, I'll do it up here. Text. PDF. That'll do it. Maybe UPI has it. There's a report. There it is. 345 page. Here we go. All right. So this is the report. Coming in here. Willful blindness. And this motherfucker who read it out today was like, this is not a political report. This is just, we're dealing with it. Look at the cover. It's got Biden with his mask on, looking at his watch. He's actually looking at the fucking rosary on his wrist, but whatever. And then these folks climbing over the thing, and the people holding like a baby. And here's some Taliban guys with like an old truck that they got from the Afghan army and whatever the shit. Like, it's just silly. And like a whole breakdown of this whole thing. Decision to withdrawal, creating an unsafe environment, failure to plan, slow-moving train wreck, blah, 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 chaos and death, failure plan to lead chaos, Abbey Gate attack, all that stuff. So about the, leaving. The premise of this entire thing is, and I read a bunch of it today. The premise of this entire thing is, they're still pissed we left. We weren't supposed to go. And in here is the Doha agreement. Trump administration and the Doha agreement is page 37. Let's see if they actually have I don't know if they have the actual text of the Doha agreement in here. But they go through all this shit about, the arrangement of it. And the biggest thing that comes out is that behind the scenes, how the Biden administration failed to enforce the Doha agreement. So this is their thing. Okay, so the Doha agreement was a bunch of shit that was meant to fail. And then the quote they keep going to is the Biden administration saying during the Doha agreement, we don't plan on following this. You know why? Because if they followed it, they'd have to stay. So, start the administration, conditions on the ground, not arbitrary timetables, negotiating with the Taliban, allow for safe and orderly withdrawal from Afghanistan, ensure Afghanistan would not revert to a safe haven for terrorism, again, an unprovable, so you could never leave. All the factors in it were unprovable, just lame. And then when they get to the Biden administration, the ambassador, the charge d'affaires of Afghanistan, which was put in there, Wilson, who was put in there by the Trump administration, held the evacuation order till the absolute last second. Just a fucking prick to basically make sure it didn't work. There you go. President Trump, however, considered a complete U.S. withdrawal before the end of his presidency. On November 11, 2020, he issued a memorandum to then-acting Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller, ordering him to withdraw all U.S. forces from Afghanistan by January 15, 2021. According to General Milley, he went to the White House with acting Secretary Miller to discuss the memo with the president. Reportedly, the two men, along with NSC advisor O'Brien, advised the president against a complete withdrawal. Shortly thereafter, the order was rescinded and no steps were taken to withdraw forces. On November 13, 2020, acting Secretary Miller sent a Pentagon-wide memorandum regarding Afghanistan stating the war isn't over. We are on the verge of defeating al-Qaeda and its associates, but we must avoid our past strategic error by failing to see the fight through to the finish. These are all his people. By the conclusion of the Trump administration, the United States maintained 2,500 troops with approximately 22,000 NATO forces and contractors out of in Afghanistan. General McKenzie explained the commitment. Ultimately, President Trump selected a branch of the plan that maintained 2,500 U.S. military personnel in Afghanistan by Inauguration Day in January 2021. We had branches of that plan completely withdrawal by May of 2021, had we been so ordered. And they didn't, of course. It's just stupid. Like, it's fucking lame. And what ultimately happened was he wanted it to fail. He intended it for it to fail. Listen to him again. He's like, we would have kept Bagram, same shit.
The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it.
He means the Taliban didn't do it.
Agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they.
So he wants you to believe that he terminated the Doha agreement, and therefore there was no withdrawal date. There was no intention. They just blew it off.
We're supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
Weird.
And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine.
Which is dumb. If that's why they did it, they fucked up. What Russia went. Oh, America's not spending $300 million a day in Afghanistan. They'll obviously want to take that money and spend it on taking all the lead pipes out of everywhere.
Because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number.
I got to tell you, when this part came up, I was like, oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord, here it comes.
Of years ago, when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why
are you such an asshole? The fuck is wrong with you?
How do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something, I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read.
I don't know what I said. I don't know. Like, I say a lot of shit. Doesn't mean anything. You don't actually think I stand by what I say, do you? Stop asking me about what I said. Ask me what I'm going to say now, because I guarantee I'll say something worse.
Where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read.
Listen to that again, real quick. It's easy to blitz right by that. Something about her not being black that she put out.
So
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out.
Yeah, no, you didn't. She never wrote a paper that said, I'm not black. Her father's Jamaican. He's black. Mother's Indian. You're a creep.
And I'll say that. And then I read.
And I'll say that. You'll say that. Notice that, like, she's not black that she put out, and I'll say that, which is not, means it's not true. It's just something I say.
That she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was a land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual.
It's like, he's got that look on his face like, you say that like it's a bad thing.
Who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual.
Yeah, these were teenagers, by the way. Like, I'm against the death penalty because I don't want a mistake to be made. That the system itself cannot be perfect, and therefore it's guaranteed that at some point you're going to execute somebody who doesn't deserve it. That's my reason. It's not because people don't deserve it, because some people they absolutely deserve to be put to death. The problem is you can't have a system that's set up that guarantees that nobody will ever be in that. But these were minors anyways, on top of that. And he's like, what's the problem?
Who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people,
along with his dipshit wife, by the way,
want better than that. Want better than this.
He's like, yeah, they probably do. Probably. That's probably why I lost last time, because I suck. They figured me out.
Want someone who understands, as I do. I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
There he goes, butthole mouth. He's mad again because he doesn't have an answer. Anytime he knows he's been dunked on and he doesn't have an answer, he goes to butthole mouth. Every time.
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country.
Also, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Like he says about Obama because he dared to be black. How could you? It was just making so much racial shit because the president's black. You're making me racist. They're basically no, they're not by any measure.
There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said.
Whatever that was, I can't remember. They come up with things like a place for Don.
Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central
Park 5.
They said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty.
The whole point was that they were children and their statements were coerced out of them. They weren't properly given representation. Like there's a bunch of reasons why, and they're kids. Dummy.
Guilty. Then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one.
Yeah, I did all my racism really early. I mean, obviously that whole thing about that I said 2 days ago about if I was going to rape someone, she wouldn't be it because she's not attractive enough. That part's relatively new.
One of the greatest economies in the history of the world.
Jesus.
And I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're just...
Based on what, dummy? Based on what? How? You're just going to build it bigger and stronger just by being Trump? What are you going to do? How does it work? What? One detail. Anything. Just throw us a bone. Beyond drill, baby, drill. We're producing more oil than ever. So if we're producing more oil than ever and we've had a better economy when we were producing less oil, why would more oil guarantee the economy's better? What are you talking about?
Destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is.
They think this is good with everybody like going out to eat and going to fucking amusement parks and shit like that again, but they don't know.
Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, She is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She
doesn't say, I don't know the gentleman, you weirdo. That's what you say about Mike Pence. Half the time, motherfucker, you said that about J.D. Vance earlier.
She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up,
I
Lindsay.
want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country.
Yeah, meaning I'm not this old fart either.
One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans. And
yeah, this is really smart too. They're getting near the end, and she's just, this is clearly part of the strategy that during the middle of this, it was going to be a fucking mess about stuff. But as you get near the bottom end of this, it's very important to get back to the detail part. She's able to do it. She goes through her list again. He doesn't have he doesn't even have a closing fucking argument.
And let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a
it is pronounced the other way. I did write anal ISIS for a reason. Groove Dragon. Yeah. I called it. I also spelled Duhbait the same way for a reason.
Plan $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President Trump, we have to move on. President Trump,
Let's turn to policy, please.
She has a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President.
Everybody's gun. The one collective gun we all own.
She has a plan to not allow fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's
you,
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond.
President Trump,
No, the
President
former
Trump.
president has said
No, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to respond to.
I'm sorry. We're going to move on, Vice President.
She brings it up, by the way. It's good that they try to move on, and it's fine. But she actually lands her other answer and then brings this back up. It's very smart.
To what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is
times.
now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Correct. Last month you said, quote, we're
Correct. I'm totally going to repeal it. I got a great plan. I have concepts of an idea of it's like words in smoke.
working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things.
You're working on things. If this is a big switch. If we come up with something, this is kind of amazing. I think it's because it's I got to give it to these moderators. It's like they actually asked him a goddamn question after all this time. If, motherfucker, if, Jesus Christ, at this point, I feel like, say if again, you dumb motherfucker. Say if again.
Today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are.
If, what are you waiting for? Fuck you waiting for, dummy? Huh? What? If, shit. It hasn't been 2 weeks yet? If, this motherfucker, if.
Are working on things. We're going to do it, and we're going to replace it. But remember that.
Yeah? With what? What? You gonna put a J on it? Call it Jif? turn it into fucking peanut butter, you dumb motherfucker.
Yes. I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much...
What? Wait. It was their plan, dummy. Why would they vote to change it? Wait, excuse me. You wanted them to do your job for you, you lazy son of a bitch? Say if again, you dumb motherfucker. Say if again.
Better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make.
Excuse what? What plan?
When I was president, do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go.
What the fuck? Let it rot? 24 million people rely on it for fucking healthcare. You're just gonna let it rot? You mean let them rot? And their families and everybody else? Say if again, you dumb motherfucker.
Go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good...
Yeah, a lot of great people. Who? Name one, you dumb motherfucker.
People in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones, too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain.
Name one. Who'd you fire, fuckhead? Who'd you hire? Name one person. Maybe we can ask them what the fucking plan is, you dipshit.
I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost...
Whoa. If this motherfucker with if again. If. Here he is. Hello. What's up? If this dumb... If. Say if again, you dumb motherfucker.
Our people, our population, less money, and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just...
So you don't have a plan. You got a if.
Yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan.
That's good. You have this motherfucker. Concepts of a plan. Conceptually, there's a plan. Is the idea, somehow. You dumb motherfucker. Say if again.
I'm not president right now, but...
Fuck, you didn't have one when you were.
If we come up with something...
She's got that... Kamala, she's got that if motherfucker face. She's going, if. Keep saying if, stupid. This is good. It's real good. It's real good.
I would only change it if we come up with something that...
If this motherfucking if. Oh, I've got to get a little tired of the if. By the way, I'm Salty Cupcake, and this is no cupcake interview. If this... Do you know how much fucking nerve it takes to if your way through this fucking question, Mr. I'll have a plan in 2 fucking weeks? If this motherfucker... If, he says... If you...
That's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we...
Concepts and options. God damn, man. That makes my sprinkles limp.
We have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not-too-distant future.
We're going to hear about it, baby. In the not-too-distant future. With this motherfucker ifing his way through.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you...
Good Lord. If this... Shit.
Supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made.
Yeah, because it's annoying.
I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand.
Look, he's back to that fucking Hillary face that he was doing, that but he doesn't have any, he can't go wrong, like, because he doesn't know. He doesn't know. He doesn't know if what she's saying is true or not. He doesn't have a rebuttal. He wants to go, yes, you will, whatever, but he doesn't want to look like any more like a toddler than he already does, because he doesn't know what he doesn't know what her actual plan is. It's interesting because he's used to having people where there was a whole substructure of attack set up for him to just kind of take the reins of it. There was this entire like anti-Hillary machine for decades, for like 2 fucking decades. And he just rolled in and just took their notes and just cribbed off their shit. And then the same thing happened with Biden. Like, Biden had a history because he'd been vice president and all this stuff. So there was like, you just use the history of him and go after his son and all that kind of shit. This is all happening too quick. He doesn't know what side of the argument he's supposed to be on because he's got no ethical bearing. So he doesn't know which side she's on, and if she's on the same side as him or if it's a nonpartisan issue, he can't even fucking process it.
And let's just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable
He didn't do shit.
Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said, at the time because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done.
I have concepts of an idea, of a dream, of a plan, which is full of gumdrops and super happy, clappy, super duper, rub and tug, yank your Johnson, special dreamy dream. But I got nothing. I was trying to find something, and I thought something would come to mind, but
is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have...
like him nodding. Yep, they did. Yep, I've been telling people I did it, but no, bullshit.
Capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when...
Meanwhile, Trump is mic'd.
When I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it, pass this prologue in terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot of...
She made a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats.
Also, what are you talking about? What is that? John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. No, he didn't. No, he did not. And
that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare. Much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump,
right. Yeah, that's not even how it works in the countries that already have it, like Canada and England. Like the emergency surgery is elective surgery that can take a little while. Just get your story straight.
Thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have...
By the way, while she's saying this, Trump's upper lip starts to get sweaty. I don't know why this issue is the one that does it. It might be accumulative, but I think it's just because they're getting near the end. And he's just like, I think his body's just starting to give up.
Invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
It didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going.
Also, no.
They're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because...
Donald, listen here, man. I got to tell you, those massive plants that you're thinking of are the weed I'm growing in Baja. Don't be an asshole. They've already set up tariffs and extended them on a country of origin. What do you think Biden's been doing? He's been tightening the rules on Made in America, you dumbass.
Because of these people, what they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not...
What have they given to China? What have they given? What did they give to China? Tell me. If it's unbelievable, I won't believe it. But give me a chance.
Going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country because
we already have that. The Biden administration already did that.
They will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible.
You mean expanding it?
We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't...
What do they refuse? Finish that thought.
Go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get...
Oh, this is the part where he just kind of blows off the whole thing and starts campaigning against Biden again?
All this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife?
He's still doing this argument for fucking 2 years, for like 4 fucking years ago or whatever. He didn't, dummy. Devin Archer got that money.
Why did she pay him $3.5?
Hey, fuckhead. He didn't get that money. Devin Archer got it, and it's not even his goddamn money. He's an investor. She invests through him. He gets to keep part of the profit. If you were a goddamn businessman, that's why I never went on your goddamn Celebrity Apprentice show and debased my goddamn self. I got shit to do. Now let's win this one for Harris and Walls.
$1 million. This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
It's like still campaigning against the fictional corrupt Biden crime family thing they made up. Like I spent a lot of time memorizing my talking points, God damn it.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News
Boy, will we.
presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
All right, let's hop ahead. Whoops. We gotta do this next one. Wyoming. Can I just say I'm Harry Hageman from the great state of Wyoming, and I want you to know that I love Donald Trump, and he is the greatest president we've ever had. Okay. And if he doesn't become president, he should be the governor of the great state of Wyoming. Wyoming. Excuse me. I love him so much. All right.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after this.
Yes, it will. One, two, three.
History TV.
5,
Televised for
This guy every day. That guy. And this
in
guy.
Journal.
And you're back. And you got here.
Keep up.
And you're not
Journal.
here.
And
Live simul.
in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Fabulous.
Here again, David Muir and
Here we go. This is going to be fantastic.
Lindsay Davis.
Lindsay Davis, God damn it.
Welcome back tonight. The time
Lindsay Davis, who's quite frankly over your shit.
has come for closing statements.
Lindsay Davis, who doesn't want to do this ever again. Lindsay Davis, who's voting for Harris just so she never has to moderate Donald Trump doing fuck all ever. Lindsay Davis, who might be knocking boots with Dick Tracy with that outfit. We don't know. But Lindsay Davis.
And Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hope.
Well, I mean, hold on. Can you have, does the I'm just curious about this. I don't know a whole bunch about this, but okay. Having a vision of a plan, does that include having a concept of a vision of a vision of a concept of a plan? Or do you actually have to have a plan to have the vision in the first place? Or, like my cousin Earl, do you have to have like a head injury to have visions? Because he was up there. I'm not saying what he was doing behind the mule, but it's a personal matter. Anyway, but he stepped back to kind of get a better angle, because I guess he's losing his boner. Anyways, he stepped on a pail and went in there, and that must have scared that donkey, and that thing reared up and kicked him right in the forehead. And ever since then, he's been able to see people's auras. You know what I mean? He's been able to look at people and go see the glow around them. And he's like, oh, shit, man. That's looking great. He's like, wow, you're a sunshiny motherfucker, And anyways, point being is that part of the vision? Is that what you're talking about? Like where he can tell the future? He can go like, there's a revenuer coming into your property tomorrow. You should probably hide your moonshine. That kind of thing.
Hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why
Wonderful.
I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in
lady.
small businesses, in
Oh,
new
that's right.
families, in what we can do around protecting seniors,
I'd like to invest in a new family, if you know what I'm saying.
what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's
I believe in what we can do together, pretty lady.
standing in the world
Sorry.
and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including.
I do. You're right. You're right. I'm tired of being disrespected. I believe I deserve respect on the world stage.
Respecting
Or my name ain't Ficus.
our military and ensuring we have the most.
Sylvia wants to marry me. I'm gonna be so happy. Oh, marry. You spelled marry with one R. That sounds like code for something. I'm not sure I'm into that kind of thing. My safe word is avocado. Yeah. Shit, I already said it though. You have to come up with a new one every time. But how do you tell somebody if you've already said it? What if you tell like, this is my safe word, and you say your safe word, and they just leave?
Lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked.
Kamala Harris for the people. People. People who need people. I think that's how that goes. No, I remember what it is. Mutual love. Home my highest people. You can count on when the going's rough.
A victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever ask them, are you okay?
No, I'm not. I'm really not. I want what you say, fair to middling.
And that's the kind of president we need right now.
Absolutely.
Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first.
That's right.
I
I love her.
intend to be a president for all Americans.
You are a good
and
lady.
Focus on what we can do over the next 10
Focus like Ficus. That's what we try to do.
and 20 years to build
Awesome.
back up our country by investing right now in you,
Ready.
the American people.
I think that's a good idea. I need a lot of investment. My foundation needs I need it rooted out.
Vice President Harris,
See you later, pretty lady.
thank you. President Trump.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do
Shut
that,
up.
she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it?
Well, they have. The stock market's at 40K plus. And insurance is down to like what, hold on, is this not working that way? I got sorry. Like unemployment's at 4% or lower for the longest stretch in history. Like oil production's at an all-time high. They passed an infrastructure bill, Chips and Science Act. Like they've done a lot of this shit, stupid.
She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it?
She has done it. They have done it. They have done it. They have. It's being done. That's why you'll notice we're not in the same shape we were in 2021 or even 2022.
She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in
The tooth fairy or
things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not.
not fracking makes the country strong? Very weird.
Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughing. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me.
Yeah, every time I call them up, I pick them up. I go, this is Donald Trump. They just start laughing. And I'm like, stop laughing at America. I need to talk to you. And they're like, you are so funny, Donald, you dipshit. And they hang up. And then I call them back and they're still laughing.
They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine.
Russia.
We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away.
This is the closing statement, by the way. This is his closing argument. This is it. It's like it's kind of like it's like if you left if his rally was a bowl was a pan full of soup and you just left it on the stove and forgot about it and all the liquid burned out of it and it was just this soupy crust at the bottom. That's what this is.
To the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump.
That's you want to talk about a positive vision for the future. They're destroying the place. Everything that's happening around you, if you've had any happiness, it's all an illusion. You haven't been to the grocery store. You haven't seen a movie. You haven't watched a series or gone to work, and you haven't driven in traffic and stopped at Starbucks. You haven't had a coffee or eggs. You haven't had an omelet in 6 fucking months because everything is terrible. So vote for me, and we'll go back to things when they were better, like the summer of 2020.
Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News president.
That's it, baby. That's all of it, chat room. We made it. Thank you, guys. Looks like we made it. Now I'm gonna go sleep because it's 1 o'clock in the morning my time, and I've got the regular morning show tomorrow. I forgot gas stoves. There's so many things that can be so pissed. I'm sure tomorrow afternoon I will have plenty of like right-wing responses to the debate, and a bunch of them saying he totally won, he's so won, and he's going to do great, and he's going to get a huge bounce out of it, and he didn't come across as a whiny, narcissistic asshole finally, when they all know he absolutely did. By the way, Harris ran away with it. There's no question. Most of his stuff was the gripey shit he says at his rallies. Her job was to stand strong and to reiterate to everyone, what her plan would be going forward, where she slightly differentiates from what the Biden administration would, or where the continuity is. Then you're good. And I gotta say, there are a couple of areas where he ate shit, and the biggest one was probably I have concepts of a plan. Like that's going to eat him for a while. That'll be one of the ones that stands out like crazy. So good night, and may your God go with you. And I believe at one point he was going to mention the kidney, but
the kidney has a very special place in the heart.
I see. I got confused there for a second. I didn't quite know how to take it, and I think we were all like,
drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
I don't think anybody needs that right now. Thank you guys so much for the super chats and the support. It was really lovely, and oh my God, the Venmos tonight, it's overwhelming, and thank you for hanging in there with me. I adore you guys, and I will see you in the morning. Now I gotta get some goddamn sleep.
Thank you.